If you're over 60, there's one everyday habit that could silently raise your risk of a stroke, and it's probably sitting right now in your refrigerator. No warning, no pain, just one moment you're reading the morning paper and the next. Your speech is slurred, your vision's blurred, or your hand won't move. As a brain doctor, I've seen this happen far too often, not because of smoking or fast food or skipping exercise, but because of something most seniors believe is healthy: fruit. Yes, really, fruit. Millions of older adults reach for fruit every day, hoping to nourish their brain, support their heart, or stay regular. But certain fruits, especially eaten at the wrong time or in the wrong body, can quietly trigger blood pressure spikes, blood sugar swings, or worse, form clots that lead straight to your brain. Today, I'm going to walk you through 9 common fruits that could silently increase your stroke risk and tell you exactly what to eat instead to protect your brain, preserve your independence, and sleep safely through the night. If you're over 60 or love someone who is, keep watching, because this may be the most important health lesson you hear this year. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Red grapes, the sweet fruit that could quietly lead to a stroke overnight. If you're over 60, there's a good chance someone has told you to eat more fruit, maybe even encouraged you to reach for a handful of red grapes in the evening instead of cookies or chips. After all, grapes are natural, they're heart healthy, full of antioxidants like resveratrol, and they taste good. So what could go wrong? A lot, especially if you're eating them before bed. You see, what most seniors are never told is that red grapes, while full of antioxidants, are also loaded with natural sugars, particularly fructose. When you eat a bowl of grapes at 8 or 9 p.m., your blood sugar spikes rapidly. And for older adults, that spike doesn't just raise your glucose, it triggers a hormonal cascade in your body that affects your blood pressure, your blood vessels, and even your brain while you sleep. Here's why this matters. During the early morning hours, between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., your body naturally experiences a surge in blood pressure, something doctors call the morning surge. It's your body's way of preparing to wake up. But when your system is already struggling to regulate sugar and insulin, that surge becomes more intense. Your arteries tighten, and blood flow to the brain becomes unstable. Now imagine this happening in a body that's already dehydrated or dealing with stiff, aging arteries. The result? A perfect storm for what doctors call a thrombotic stroke, a blood clot that forms and cuts off oxygen to part of your brain. It's silent, it's fast, and by the time you notice your speech is slurred or your hand won't lift, the damage is already done. Let me tell you about Mr. Harold Thompson, a 72-year-old retired postal worker from Michigan. Every night, like clockwork, he'd grab a bowl of grapes and sit down to watch the 10 o'clock news. "They're good for my heart," he told me. "Better than ice cream, right?" And he wasn't wrong, in moderation. But one morning, his wife found him slumped in bed, his right arm limp, and his words jumbled. A stroke. We reviewed his labs. His fasting blood sugar was elevated, his blood pressure had surged overnight, and imaging showed a small clot had formed in his left cerebral artery, cutting off the very oxygen his brain needed. The culprit wasn't junk food, it wasn't alcohol. It was his healthy habit, taken too far. Because for seniors, even natural sugars can turn into silent threats, especially when consumed at the wrong time. If you're on blood pressure medication, insulin, or dealing with early signs of vascular disease, Red grapes late at night can be more than just sweet, they can be dangerous. Not because grapes are bad, but because your body after 60 isn't the same as it was at 30. Metabolism slows, blood vessels stiffen, and the brain becomes more vulnerable to pressure, sugar, and clotting. What's most heartbreaking is that Mr. Thompson thought he was doing everything right. I was trying to be healthy, he told me during rehab, but nobody told me this could happen. His speech eventually returned, but he now walks with a cane and has trouble writing with his dominant hand. This is the message I need every senior to hear. There is no such thing as a harmless food if it's eaten the wrong way, at the wrong time, and in the wrong body. And red grapes are just the beginning. What if I told you that one of the most popular fruits in America, the one we're told helps regulate blood pressure, can actually cause dangerous drops in circulation for seniors overnight? Let's talk about bananas. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. Bananas, the healthy fruit that may quietly trigger a stroke in seniors. For decades, bananas have been praised as a heart-healthy food. They're affordable, easy to digest, and loaded with potassium, a mineral doctors say helps lower blood pressure. So when older adults hear that, they naturally believe bananas are a smart, safe choice. Many even make them a nightly habit. But what most people over 60 are never told is that too much potassium in the wrong body at the wrong time can backfire, and the effects can be devastating. Here's what you need to understand. After age 60, your kidneys, the organs responsible for filtering and balancing minerals like potassium, no longer work as efficiently. They slow down. That means potassium from foods like bananas can build up in your bloodstream, especially if you're already taking certain common medications, ACE inhibitors, diuretics, or beta blockers, which many seniors are. On their own, these meds already raise potassium levels. Add 1 or 2 bananas in the evening, and you've now unknowingly created a medical time bomb. Why? Because too much potassium doesn't just cause muscle cramps or irregular heartbeats. In severe cases, it can cause a sudden drop in blood pressure, cardiac arrhythmias, or worse, clot formation due to impaired circulation. And during the early morning hours, when your body is supposed to rise gently from rest, this potassium imbalance can cause your heart to struggle, your blood vessels to constrict, and oxygen to drop. This is the window when blood clots are most likely to form and move toward the brain, silently causing a stroke. I'll never forget Mr. Richard Collins, a 77-year-old retired truck mechanic from Indiana. He'd been healthy most of his life, no smoking, walked daily, and took pride in eating clean. Every night after dinner, he'd slice a banana over plain yogurt. I read it's good for the heart, he told me. It was a routine, familiar, comforting. But one morning, around 5:30 a.m., his wife found him collapsed in the bathroom. His speech was slurred, one side of his face drooping. He had suffered a moderate ischemic stroke, likely triggered by a combination of elevated potassium and a nighttime drop in blood pressure. His blood work confirmed hyperkalemia, high potassium levels, and his scans showed signs of cerebral hypoperfusion, not enough blood getting to key parts of the brain. The heartbreaking part? His medications had already been pushing his potassium levels higher. The banana, while healthy in isolation, became the final trigger. It tipped the balance. It helped form a clot. He survived, but barely. To this day, he can't write with his dominant hand, and his speech remains slow. His wife told me through tears, he was just trying to be healthy. No one told us bananas could be dangerous. This is why I speak out, because most seniors never hear this side of the story. Bananas are not bad, but your body isn't the same at 70 as it was at 30. Foods interact differently with aging kidneys, medications, and fragile blood vessels. One healthy choice, if unchecked, can create the conditions for a stroke that changes your life in seconds. So if you're over 60, on heart or blood pressure meds, or have ever experienced dizziness, irregular heartbeats, or numbness in the morning, please talk to your doctor before making bananas a daily habit, especially at night. And while bananas may drop your pressure too low, there's another fruit that does the opposite. It floods your body with water and sugar, pulling essential minerals from your bloodstream while you sleep, leaving your brain vulnerable in ways most people never see coming. Let me tell you the real story about watermelon. 3. Watermelon, the summer treat that can starve your brain of oxygen while you sleep. To most people, watermelon feels harmless, even joyful. It reminds us of summer picnics, family gatherings, and childhood memories. It's light, refreshing, hydrating, and as we age, it often becomes a favorite snack. It's mostly water, we tell ourselves. Better than cookies, right? But for older adults, especially those managing blood pressure or heart conditions, this innocent fruit may be quietly working against your brain, especially when eaten in the evening. Let's talk about what watermelon really does inside an aging body. Yes, it's hydrating, in fact, over 90% water, but it's also packed with natural sugars, especially fructose, and acts as a natural diuretic, meaning it increases the amount of urine your body produces. That might sound good if you have fluid retention, but for seniors, especially those on medications like diuretics, beta blockers, or ACE inhibitors, this can become dangerous very quickly. Here's why. When you eat watermelon in the evening, your body pulls fluid into the bladder during the night. You wake up multiple times to urinate, disrupting deep sleep, causing subtle dehydration, and lowering your blood pressure. Combine that with aging blood vessels that are already stiff and fragile, and you've now created a perfect storm: thinner blood volume, less oxygen in circulation, and a vulnerable brain that's trying to regulate itself in the early morning hours. What happens next? Your heart has to pump harder to compensate. Your brain, suddenly under stress, can experience reduced blood flow, a condition called cerebral hypoperfusion. And that's when clots can form quietly, without warning. It forms blood clots that can travel and block a vessel inside your brain. Let me share the story of Mrs. Elaine Morris, a 79-year-old retired librarian from North Carolina. She was active, mentally sharp, and took pride in managing her health. Every evening, especially during summer, she'd enjoy a bowl of chilled watermelon before bed. It helps keep me regular and hydrated, she said. What she didn't realize is that she was also taking hydrochlorothiazide for her blood pressure, a water pill. One morning, around 4:45 a.m., she woke up to use the bathroom and collapsed in the hallway. Her right side wouldn't move. She couldn't speak. Her husband rushed her to the ER and scans confirmed an ischemic stroke. Her lab showed low sodium, signs of dehydration, and thickened blood, the result of fluid imbalance. Her doctor, me, had to explain that the combination of her diuretic medication and nighttime watermelon had caused her blood pressure to drop too low, her blood to concentrate, and a clot to form that blocked oxygen to her left frontal lobe. She survived, but the stroke took her independence. She can no longer read books with the same ease. Her memory, once her greatest pride, now flickers unpredictably. And the saddest part, she thought she was doing everything right. Watermelon is natural, healthy. She had no idea that timing and context matter as much as content, because in an older body, it's not just what you eat, it's when and what else you're taking with it. Watermelon may hydrate, but at night, For a senior body already on medications and struggling with circulation, it can quietly drain the very balance your brain needs to survive the night. So please, if you're over 60, taking medications for blood pressure or heart disease, or waking up often at night, talk to your doctor before making watermelon a nighttime habit. What you don't feel at 2 a.m. might show up at 6 a.m. as a life altering stroke. But if you think watermelon is risky, wait until you hear about one fruit that looks innocent, tropical, and even smells like sunshine, yet it can thin your blood so much, especially if you're on medication, that a tiny brain bleed could change everything. Let's talk about pineapple. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number one below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Pineapple, the tropical fruit that can thin your blood too far and trigger a brain bleed. For many older adults, pineapple feels like a safe indulgence. It's sweet but not processed, bright but natural, something that reminds us of summer vacations, fresh salads, or a small treat after dinner. It's especially popular among seniors who are told to eat anti inflammatory foods or who deal with sluggish digestion. What no one talks about, though, and what most doctors never explain clearly, is that pineapple contains a powerful enzyme called bromelain. And for older adults on common heart or blood pressure medications, that combination can quietly become dangerous. Here's the reality: bromelain is known to support digestion and reduce inflammation, but it also acts as a natural blood thinner. On its own, that may not be a big issue. But what happens when it's added to a body that's already processing prescription anticoagulants like aspirin, Plavix, Eliquis, or warfarin? The result can be silent until it's not. Blood becomes too thin to clot properly, and the vessels in your brain, already more fragile with age, can suddenly rupture, leading to a hemorrhagic stroke. This isn't a theory. It's something I've witnessed in real life, in my own clinic. Let me tell you about Mrs. Nancy Delacroix, an 81-year-old retired school teacher from Virginia. Nancy was sharp, funny, and deeply committed to her health. She'd survived a heart valve replacement the year before and was placed on warfarin, a blood thinner, to prevent clot formation, a standard life-saving treatment. She followed instructions, kept her INR, a measure of blood thickness, monitored regularly, and lived a structured life. Then she read an article online praising pineapple for its anti inflammatory benefits. They called it nature's ibuprofen, she told me. So she started adding it to her evening salads and morning smoothies, just a few chunks each day. It felt like a harmless way to stay healthy. But one Thursday morning, her daughter found her sitting in bed, confused and disoriented, her speech slurred, her face pale. At the hospital, scans revealed a brain bleed, not from trauma or uncontrolled hypertension, but from blood that had become too thin to clot. Her INR had spiked beyond the safe range. The pineapple, combined with her warfarin, had quietly tipped the balance. Her brain, already vulnerable, couldn't stop the bleeding. Nancy survived, but her short term memory is no longer intact. She often repeats questions she asked just minutes earlier. And while she still smiles, her daughter tells me, it's like part of her got washed away in that moment. That's the danger most people don't see. Pineapple, while natural, is not neutral. When you are over 60, and especially if you're on medications, every food you consume is part of a delicate chemical equation. And when one ingredient starts tipping the numbers too far in one direction, the brain is often the first organ to suffer. Bromelain can impair platelet function, slow clot formation, and interact with blood thinners in subtle but significant ways. It doesn't matter if it's fresh pineapple, frozen, or juiced. The enzyme is still active. And if you're already on medications that affect your cardiovascular or clotting system, even small amounts can lead to brain hemorrhage, dizziness, fainting, or stroke. And just like that, what was once a healthy habit becomes a silent threat. It forms blood clots too slowly. It lets fragile vessels leak. And for the aging brain, even a few drops of blood in the wrong place can steal speech, balance, or memory forever. This is why I urge every senior to look beyond the label. Don't assume that because a fruit is natural, it's harmless. Aging changes how your body processes everything, from enzymes to sugars to fluids, and certain healthy foods must be treated like medicine, with care, respect, and full knowledge of what they can do. If you're over 60, taking any heart or blood thinner medications, please don't add pineapple to your diet without first speaking to your doctor. You may not feel it tonight, but your brain could pay the price tomorrow. And while pineapple may thin your blood too much, there's another fruit that may be quietly flooding your system with sugar, pulling your brain into dangerous highs and lows, and it's found in nearly every American refrigerator. Let me tell you what's hiding inside your morning orange juice. 5. Oranges and orange juice. The morning habit that may quietly prime your brain for stroke. For generations, the day in many American households has started with the same simple ritual: a glass of orange juice. It's bright, it's refreshing, and it's been marketed for decades as the healthy way to begin your morning. Especially for older adults, oranges and orange juice feel like a safe, even wholesome choice. Doctors once praised it for vitamin C. It's natural. It's immune boosting. So what could possibly be dangerous? The answer lies not just in what oranges contain, but how your aging body responds to them, especially when they're consumed regularly, in liquid form, and in combination with medications or existing vascular issues. And the danger for many seniors is far more serious than most people realize. You see, oranges are packed with natural sugars and ascorbic acid, a powerful form of vitamin C. In small doses, that's beneficial. But when taken in excess or when concentrated into juice, it can accelerate iron absorption in the body. That may not sound harmful until you understand what excess iron can do to the aging brain. As we grow older, our body's ability to regulate iron levels becomes impaired. Excess iron doesn't get flushed out. It accumulates in the tissues, including in the blood vessels and deep brain structures. Over time, this can contribute to oxidative stress, damage the inner lining of arteries, and accelerate plaque formation, especially in areas already vulnerable due to hypertension or diabetes. The result? It forms blood clots more easily. When your blood vessels are inflamed and your iron is high, the platelets become hyperactive, ready to stick, to clump, and to block flow. If that clot travels to your brain, it can cause an ischemic stroke. And worse, orange juice, especially the no-pulp, processed kind found in cartons, contains more sugar per ounce than soda, spiking your blood sugar, which leads to further inflammation, dehydration, and pressure swings. I remember Mr. Thomas Harlan, a 75-year-old retired air traffic controller from Georgia. He had lived a clean, structured life. He didn't drink. He walked daily. But every morning, without fail, he drank a tall glass of orange juice. "It helps keep me regular," he said, "and it's heart healthy." But one morning, he felt strange. His right hand trembled slightly, his vision blurred. Within an hour, he couldn't find the words to speak clearly. His wife rushed him to the ER, and we diagnosed a small ischemic stroke affecting his left temporal lobe. His blood work showed elevated serum ferritin, a marker of iron overload, and his glucose had spiked after breakfast. He wasn't diabetic, but his brain had experienced what we call a vascular insult, a clot that had quietly formed and lodged itself where it shouldn't. The orange juice had contributed to that, not in isolation, but by stacking on top of other age-related risks. It increased iron absorption. It destabilized his morning glucose. It narrowed already stiff arteries just enough to allow a clot to block the flow. He recovered, thankfully. But today, he takes speech therapy and tires easily from conversations. "I just thought it was juice," he told me, shaken. "I didn't think I was feeding a stroke." That's the part no one tells seniors. The body after 60 is not the body of 30. Your arteries are more delicate, your brain more sensitive to blood flow and inflammation, and every small daily habit, or even something as innocent as orange juice, plays a role in either protecting or threatening your future. If you're over 60, especially if you have high blood pressure, take iron supplements, or have memory concerns, please limit or eliminate orange juice. Choose whole fruit, if at all, and never pair it with multivitamins high in iron or calcium without medical guidance. And just when you think you've spotted the culprits, there's another fruit sitting quietly in your fridge, one that seems harmless, even crisp and tart, but in reality can silently irritate your digestive tract, impact your sleep, and increase your stroke risk by triggering nocturnal acid reflux. Let me tell you what's hiding behind a simple green apple. 6. Green apples, the crisp snack that could quietly disrupt your sleep and raise your stroke risk. We've been told for years that an apple a day keeps the doctor away. It's a phrase so familiar it feels almost sacred, especially to older Americans who were raised to believe that apples are one of nature's safest, most wholesome foods. And in many ways, that's true. Apples, especially green ones, are rich in fiber, vitamin C, and antioxidants. But what we often overlook is that even the healthiest fruit, when consumed at the wrong time or in the wrong body, can become a subtle, silent threat, especially to the aging brain. Green apples, because of their high acidity and tartness, are particularly rough on the digestive system. When eaten late in the day or close to bedtime, something many older adults do as a light, healthy evening snack, they can trigger acid reflux without warning. And for people over 60, that reflux isn't just an annoyance, it can become a neurological threat. Let me explain. As we age, the lower esophageal sphincter, the muscle that separates the stomach from the esophagus, weakens. This makes it easier for acid and stomach contents to move upward during the night, especially when you lie down. When acidic foods like green apples are consumed in the evening, they increase the production of stomach acid. The result? Nocturnal reflux, a condition many seniors don't even know they have because it doesn't always present with heartburn. Instead, it may cause silent aspiration, brief awakenings, or even sudden spikes in blood pressure and heart rate as your body struggles to react. These nightly disturbances rob your brain of its most critical recovery time, deep sleep, the phase where your cardiovascular system resets and your blood vessels repair themselves. Without it, inflammation increases, blood thickens, and clots form more easily. And that's how a simple apple, eaten at the wrong hour, can contribute to a silent stroke risk you'll never see coming. I saw this firsthand with Mrs. Carol Jennings, a 76-year-old widow from Oregon who had been active all her life. She walked every morning, volunteered at the local library, and took pride in her clean, modest diet. Every night, she would slice up half a green apple, sprinkle it with cinnamon, and eat it while reading before bed. "It helps my digestion," she told me. "I don't like going to bed feeling full." But for weeks, she had been waking up unusually tired. Some mornings she felt dizzy, slightly confused, once even tripping over her own foot while stepping out of bed. She chalked it up to aging. Then, one morning, she awoke unable to move her left hand. She slurred her words when trying to call for help. Her daughter, thankfully, was visiting and rushed her to the hospital. We diagnosed a small posterior circulation stroke, likely caused by a clot that had formed during the night. Her blood pressure had surged between 3 and 5 a.m., a classic sign of disrupted sleep and poor cardiovascular recovery. When we reviewed her habits and labs, the connection became clear. Her nightly apple was triggering nocturnal reflux, which led to sleep disruption, blood pressure fluctuation, and clot formation. "It was just an apple," she said, quietly stunned. "I never imagined it could affect my brain." That's the terrifying part for many older adults. The things that feel the most innocent are often the ones we question the least. But as your body ages, it processes food differently. Your digestion slows, your vascular system becomes more fragile, and your brain becomes far more vulnerable to changes in blood flow, pressure, and inflammation. So if you're over 60 and you've made apples, especially green apples, part of your evening routine, please reconsider the timing. Enjoy them earlier in the day when your digestion is more active and your body better equipped to handle acidity. Don't go to sleep feeding the fire of reflux. It may not wake you tonight, but the stroke it sets in motion might take something from you that you'll never get back. And if you think apples are safe, wait until you hear about the fruit that's often praised for its sleep benefits, but can quietly thin your blood and trigger dangerous overnight brain bleeds if you're on heart medications. Let me tell you what's hiding in a handful of cherries. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 7. 7. Cherries, the sweet sleep snack that may quietly thin your blood and trigger a stroke. Cherries, soft, dark, and sweet, feel like a treat from nature. For older adults struggling with sleep, inflammation, or joint pain, they've even been called a superfood. Tart cherry juice is widely promoted as a natural remedy for better rest and reduced arthritis symptoms. You'll see it in health food stores, on blogs, and in TV ads. But what most seniors don't know, and what few doctors ever mention, is that cherries may do more than help you sleep. In the wrong situation, they can also quietly thin your blood too much, interfere with medication, and contribute to brain bleeds while you rest. Here's what makes cherries tricky. They contain high levels of natural salicylates, which are compounds similar in structure and function to aspirin. These salicylates inhibit platelet aggregation, meaning they make it harder for your blood to clot. In younger bodies, this mild effect may go unnoticed. But in older adults, especially those who are already taking blood thinners like aspirin, Plavix, or Eliquis, this natural blood thinning effect can become dangerous. Because when blood gets too thin, even a tiny rupture in a fragile cerebral blood vessel can cause bleeding in the brain, a hemorrhagic stroke. These strokes don't always feel like a violent onset. Sometimes it starts with a headache, a little dizziness, a moment of confusion, but by the time it's recognized, the bleeding is already underway. I'll never forget Mr. Bill Renshaw, a 74-year-old former high school band teacher from Colorado. He was a kind man, the type who still mailed birthday cards by hand. After years of managing atrial fibrillation with warfarin, he switched to a new generation blood thinner. He followed instructions, kept his sodium in check, and walked daily. But in an effort to manage his arthritis and improve his sleep, he began drinking a small glass of tart cherry juice every night, a tip he'd read about in a senior wellness newsletter. For weeks, he slept better and swore his knees felt less swollen. But then, one Sunday morning, his wife found him on the floor of the kitchen, mumbling incoherently, struggling to sit up. The ER team ran a CT scan and confirmed it, Memo, a small but significant intracerebral hemorrhage. His blood tests revealed excess anticoagulation activity. The cherry juice, combined with his medication, had quietly tipped his blood past the safe threshold. It forms blood clots too slowly, the neurologist explained. He couldn't stop a small vessel from bleeding. Bill survived, but he didn't walk out of the hospital the same man. His balance never returned fully. His memory, once razor sharp, now faded unpredictably. His wife later asked me through tears, "Why didn't anyone tell us cherry juice could do that?" That's the tragedy. These aren't bad choices. They're uninformed ones. And in senior health, the difference between helpful and harmful often comes down to timing, dosage, and the unique chemistry of your body, especially when medications are involved. What feels like a small, healthy routine, a few cherries before bed, may interact with your prescriptions in ways your brain cannot afford. So if you're over 60, taking any blood thinner, or have ever had a minor bleed, be extremely cautious with cherry juice, cherry extracts, or even regular servings of dark cherries. They are not candy. They are pharmacologically active. Respect them as such. Don't assume that natural means safe. But if cherries can thin your blood too much, there's another fruit, bright, juicy, and often added to breakfast, that can drain your body's electrolytes, mess with your hydration, and increase your chances of early morning dizziness, confusion, and stroke. Let me show you what might be hiding inside a slice of cantaloupe. 8. Cantaloupe, the hydrating fruit that can quietly drain your brain's lifeline while you sleep. Cantaloupe, that soft, juicy melon so many of us grew up slicing on summer mornings or scooping into fruit salads, seems like the very image of health. It's light, it's refreshing, and for older adults, it feels safe, low in fat, low in calories, easy to chew. In fact, many seniors eat it after dinner, thinking they're making a smart, clean choice before bed. But what's almost never discussed is how this hydrating fruit can backfire in an aging body, especially when the sun goes down and your brain enters its most vulnerable hours. Here's what you need to know. Cantaloupe is over 90% water and packed with potassium. On the surface, that sounds like a great thing. After all, hydration and potassium are essential for heart and muscle function. But for seniors, especially those on diuretics, beta blockers, or blood pressure medications, the body no longer handles that combination the way it once did. When you eat cantaloupe in the evening, it often leads to nighttime urination, the constant trips to the bathroom that interrupt deep restorative sleep. These awakenings, though seemingly harmless, begin to dehydrate the blood, shift your electrolyte balance, and cause minor drops in blood pressure that you may not even notice. But your brain does. Sleep disruption combined with subtle dehydration becomes a setup for what we call morning hypoperfusion, a state where the brain receives less blood and oxygen right when it needs it most. And when blood thickens even slightly from fluid loss overnight, it forms blood clots more easily, especially in vessels already narrowed from age or plaque buildup. That's how strokes happen silently, often in the early morning hours. I remember Mr. Joseph Klein, a 78-year-old retired Navy engineer from Nevada. Proud, precise, and disciplined, he monitored his blood pressure every day and followed his cardiologist's orders to the letter. One habit he was especially proud of? Ending each night with a small bowl of chilled cantaloupe. "It helps me stay hydrated," he told me, "and it's good for my potassium." But one morning, he didn't wake up on time. His wife found him confused, unable to remember their address. He was slurring his words, struggling to keep his balance. He was rushed to the hospital, where scans confirmed a small ischemic stroke in the right parietal lobe. Lab results showed mild hyponatremia, low sodium, and imaging revealed slight thickening in the arteries supplying his brain, common in aging but dangerous when combined with fluid imbalance and clot risk. The likely chain of events? His cantaloupe, combined with his diuretic, had led to subtle overnight fluid shifts. He was losing water but not replacing electrolytes fast enough. His blood pressure dipped while he slept, circulation slowed, and a clot formed, eventually traveling to the brain and stealing a piece of his cognition in minutes. Today, Joseph walks with assistance and struggles with spatial orientation. It wasn't the stroke that scared me the most, he told me. It was how normal everything seemed before it happened. That's the lesson I need every senior to hear. At a certain point in life, the body becomes a delicate balance of hydration, blood chemistry, and circulation. And while cantaloupe may seem gentle and pure, its water content and potassium load can tip that balance when the body is least able to adapt during the night. If you're over 60 on heart or blood pressure medications, or waking up multiple times per night, reconsider when and how much cantaloupe you're eating. In the senior years, timing matters just as much as nutrition. It may not seem like much now, but your brain may pay the price later. And just when you think you've dodged the obvious risks, there's one last fruit, the one often labeled as brain food, packed into every antioxidant supplement and memory boosting ad. But in the wrong amount, it can quietly interfere with blood sugar, affect memory, and spike inflammation in ways no one expects. Let's talk about what's really happening inside a handful of strawberries. 9. Strawberries, the brain food that could secretly spike your risk of stroke and cognitive decline. Strawberries, they're the symbol of vitality, bright red, sweet, and loaded with antioxidants. You'll hear them called a superfruit, often featured in wellness articles as a brain booster, a memory aid, a friend to the aging mind. It's no surprise many older adults reach for them daily, on cereal, in smoothies, or as a dessert alternative. The idea is simple. They're natural, heart-friendly, and surely safe. But what most people over 60 are never told is that strawberries, while nutrient-rich, can quietly work against your health if you're not paying close attention to how your body responds, especially if you are already managing high blood pressure, diabetes, or take medications that affect your blood vessels or blood sugar. Let's look at what strawberries really do inside a senior body. Yes, they contain antioxidants like anthocyanins, which can reduce inflammation, but they're also high in natural sugars, especially when overripe or eaten in large quantities. For older adults with slower digestion and insulin sensitivity, this means strawberries can cause sharp blood sugar fluctuations, even if they taste only mildly sweet. These swings don't just affect your energy, they create vascular instability, a tug of war between insulin and adrenaline that can cause your blood vessels to constrict and dilate unpredictably. Over time, this weakens the lining of the vessels in your brain, and in vulnerable brains, that means higher risk for clot formation or even a microstroke, a small blockage that doesn't cause collapse but quietly steals your memory, balance, or speech. Even more alarming is that strawberries are consistently ranked among the most pesticide-contaminated fruits in the United States, year after year topping the Dirty Dozen list by the Environmental Working Group, EWG. Those pesticide residues, especially organophosphates, have been linked to cognitive decline, disruption of neural signals, and increased inflammation, all factors that contribute to stroke risk in older adults. Let me tell you about Ms. Lorraine Whitaker, age 82, a retired piano teacher from Pennsylvania. Lorraine was full of life, witty, organized, still played Chopin from memory. She'd read in a senior wellness article that strawberries were good for aging brains, so she made it a habit, a generous cup of strawberries every evening, often dipped in a bit of dark chocolate. It felt luxurious and health conscious. But over time, she began noticing small changes: trouble recalling students' names, balance issues while walking to the mailbox. She shrugged it off as aging. Then one morning, she had trouble forming words. Her daughter rushed her to the ER, where imaging showed she'd suffered a lacunar stroke. A tiny clot had formed in a small vessel deep in her brain, not large enough to paralyze, but enough to erode key cognitive functions. Her blood glucose had spiked overnight. She wasn't diabetic, but her insulin had become erratic, and her vascular system, already narrowed by age, couldn't adapt. And when we tested the strawberries she'd bought from a nearby market, we found residues consistent with pesticide exposure, including known neurotoxins. It forms blood clots, I explained gently, not because of one strawberry, but because the body you're in now isn't built to process all of it the way it used to. Lorraine still plays piano, but more slowly now. She has speech therapy weekly and tires quickly in conversation. "I just thought I was doing something good for my brain," she whispered. "No one told me it could hurt it." And that's the hidden danger, not in the fruit itself, but in the false sense of safety that comes with the label healthy. When you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, the smallest things, sugar, chemicals, timing, can have the biggest consequences, especially when they're repeated day after day without awareness. If you eat strawberries regularly, wash them thoroughly, choose organic if possible, eat them in the morning when your metabolism is more active, and always consider what medications or conditions might be amplifying their effects. Because no matter how healthy something may seem, it only takes one clot, one vessel, one moment to change everything. But now that we've uncovered these 9 hidden threats in everyday fruits, the question becomes, what should you eat instead to protect your brain, stabilize your blood, and truly nourish your aging body? Let me show you the real foods that support your brain without the silent risks. Final wake-up call: what to eat instead to truly protect your brain after 60. After hearing about these 9 common fruits that may silently raise your stroke risk, it's normal to feel overwhelmed, even betrayed. You might be thinking, if even fruit can harm me, what's left? What can I actually eat that's safe? That reaction is not only understandable, it's human, especially when you've spent decades trying to do the right thing. You've read the labels. You've made the switch from cookies to grapes, from pie to strawberries, from salty snacks to a bowl of watermelon. And yet now you're learning that those very habits, without the right timing, context, or awareness of your medications and aging body, could be increasing your risk of the very thing you're trying to prevent: a stroke. But don't let fear paralyze you, because the truth is, your body, even in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, still has a remarkable ability to heal, protect, and thrive, but only when it's fed what it recognizes. Not chemical cocktails or megadose vitamins, not sugary juices or fruit laced with pesticides, but real food in real balance, eaten with the wisdom of experience. You see, your brain isn't asking for exotic berries from faraway countries. It's asking for consistency, for hydration, for steady fuel, healthy fats, and anti-inflammatory compounds that are gently absorbed, not forced in. The good news? You can give your brain exactly what it needs, safely, affordably, and deliciously, right from your kitchen. Start with healthy fats, which are essential for maintaining the myelin sheath around your neurons, the insulation that keeps your brain signals strong. A single serving of avocado each day gives you monounsaturated fats that stabilize blood pressure and reduce inflammation. Add a few walnuts or almonds, which are rich in magnesium, vitamin E, and omega 3s, all proven to support brain blood flow and memory. Next, focus on leafy greens, especially spinach, kale, and arugula. These are packed with folate, a B vitamin that helps reduce homocysteine, a compound that, when elevated, is strongly linked to stroke and cognitive decline. Add a handful of greens to scrambled eggs in the morning or saute them with garlic for dinner. Berries, when eaten in moderation and washed thoroughly, still have a place in a brain-healthy diet, but prioritize ones with low glycemic impact and rich polyphenol content, like blueberries and blackberries. Eat them earlier in the day and always pair them with protein or fat to blunt the sugar spike. Speaking of protein, eggs, especially the yolk, contain choline, a nutrient your brain uses to build acetylcholine, a key neurotransmitter for memory. Unless your doctor tells you otherwise, 1 egg per day is a safe and powerful addition to your morning routine. Don't forget hydration, which is often the most overlooked brain protector of all. As we age, our thirst cues weaken. That means by the time you feel thirsty, you're already dehydrated, and dehydration is a major risk factor for early morning strokes. Drink a full glass of room temperature water first thing in the morning, and if you're on medications that increase urination, space your water intake throughout the day. What about grains? Skip the sugar-laced cereal boxes and opt for steel-cut oats or whole grain toast. These complex carbohydrates release glucose slowly, giving your brain a steady stream of fuel without the crashes that lead to brain fog, irritability, or fatigue. And lastly, nourish your gut, because your gut and brain are deeply connected. Fermented foods like plain yogurt, kefir, or sauerkraut, in small, sodium-conscious amounts, help maintain a healthy microbiome. And when your gut is balanced, your brain is calmer, more focused, and better protected from inflammation. Let me share the story of one of my most inspiring patients, Margaret Wilson, age 73, a retired school principal from Arizona. When I first met her, she had a drawer full of supplements, fruit-based snacks, and wellness drinks she'd ordered online. She thought she was doing everything right, but her energy was low, her blood pressure was rising, and she was waking up dizzy nearly every day. Together, we cleared the clutter. We replaced her evening fruit bowl with a light broth and a few steamed vegetables. We added avocado to her breakfast, swapped juice for water, and moved her strawberries to lunchtime, never after 6 p.m. Within a few weeks, her blood pressure normalized, her balance improved, her energy returned, and she told me with tears in her eyes, "I feel like I got 10 years back." That's not a miracle. That's the power of respecting your body's stage of life and feeding it accordingly. So if you take away one message from all this, let it be this. At this stage of life, the smallest choices matter the most. Not every healthy food is safe for every person. And not every stroke starts with pain. Some begin with what you eat the night before. So read the labels, trust your instincts, question what you've been told, and above all, listen when your body whispers so you won't have to hear it scream. You're not alone on this journey, and you are never too old to take back control of your brain, your body, and your future. Now, are you ready to make your kitchen your safest medicine cabinet? Let's begin. One wise choice at a time. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.